failed to mention the two most important people on the panel, my wife Becky and Kimberly Guilfoyle. She's the vice chairwoman of America First Policies and America First PAC. She was also a prosecutor at one time. I didn't know that. I'm a recovering lawyer too.
There you go.
And she was on the Fox show The Five, many other credits. But welcome, Kimberly Guilfoyle.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Good save, Jerry. You got them. It made our lives a lot easier tonight, I think.
That's right. That's right. So you guys want to have a seat?
Sure.
I did an interview this morning, and I had a reporter ask me, about how colleges and universities, mainstream universities, have become so intolerant of conservative viewpoints and of students who are conservatives, and they ridicule them in the classroom. They single them out, and the reporter asked, what is the impact of that on our society, where these universities are disinviting conservative speakers, and they're just teaching just one side of every issue? And I said, the product, what it does to our society is we end up with politicians like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who have only been taught one side, who every time she opens her mouth, I think she's kidding, but she's serious. And
True story.
And she actually said this week that people your age should reconsider having children because of global warming. Well, I was sitting there thinking, yeah, people their age should reconsider having children if people like you are going to be in charge of the country they lead. So, but that's how I feel about all these new socialists in the Democratic Party, all this crazy Green New Deal stuff. You got any thoughts on that?
Listen, I mean, the whole thing, when I read about the Green New Deal, and what's worse about the concept is you had a cost of $93 trillion. Now, we don't talk about that as anything big, but that's more than 4 times our national debt. That's literally 14 times what the U.S. government takes in revenue on an annual basis. So think about that. If you spent nothing on anything else other than trying to achieve the Green New Deal, the U.S. could put all of its money towards that for 14 years. It's just nonsensical. But what's perhaps worse about it, Jerry, is that every mainstream leading Democratic socialist candidate for the presidency of the United States is buying into this, saying, oh, it's a great investment. It's wonderful. This will pay for itself, especially the part about the people who don't want to work. We're going to take care of them too, because, it's just insanity. And it goes to show you that no one here making trillion-dollar decisions, and no one on that side, has any understanding of finance, of what goes into making money. They're all just preaching some sort of leftist crazy theory. And it doesn't work. It's failed over and over again, but this time it's going to be different, Jerry. This time it's going to be different.
$65,000 per household, every household in the United States for 10 years.
I think it's actually 650.
No, that's over 10 years.
Oh, over 10 years, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so it's, a lot of families don't make $65,000. So it's just unbelievable to me that I think it's good though, that's the direction the Democrats are going. That's going to make it pretty easy in 2020.
As do I. I mean, listen, I come from New York City, not exactly a bastion. Well, I'm actually surprised. I was going to say not exactly a bastion of conservative thought. But there was a time. You grow up with enough people from the other side, you're able to engage, you're able to have conversations, and, throughout my life, I would have been able to put the shoe on the other foot, taken sort of the more liberal stance, and argued it against a conservative, and done so reasonably effectively. I can't do that anymore. I mean, if the last week probably hasn't shown us that more than anything, again, whether it's Green New Deal, whether it's, frankly, the post-term abortion issue, this isn't, anywhere else in the world, at any other point in time in history, what the governor of this very state said was called murder. That's not, this isn't women's health care. If the baby is born and it's alive, the woman is no longer at risk. The major part of the counter argument is totally off the table. It's about control. And so, when I see them doing this and jumping the shark and taking an extreme point and then just, blowing that out of the water and going that far left, I think what the other side has done, and is a big mistake, is they took 2016 and said, oh, you know what we really screwed up? It wasn't that we had the most unlikable candidate perhaps in the history of the world. It was that we need to be much further left and we have to go as crazy as possible because that's where America is. And they're not.
Kimberly, as a mother, you and I are both moms, and I'm a grandmother now. What did you think about what the governor said? Could you absolutely imagine anybody doing that to your child?
Yeah, I think it's reprehensible, and you saw that we called for him to leave office and resign. I'm shocked he hasn't. He's completely reckless in terms of his disregard for the sanctity of life. I fought my life as a prosecutor and prosecuting crimes that were committed against children and against women, and in particular homicide cases where if a woman was pregnant at the time and killed in a vehicle, you would get 2 counts of homicide. So how is it that then when a child is actually born, someone could take a life? That is murder. That's flat out simple. So that's what the Democrats want. That's the choice you have on Election Day. I think that one issue could be so defining in terms of who you choose and who you stand for. And quite frankly, Don, your father, President Trump, has been the biggest supporter of pro-life and of religious liberty and freedom. And God bless him, because he has exceeded all the expectations. I knew that he would do this, and with phenomenal Supreme Court picks that will make sure that the sanctity of life is preserved, is protected in this country. And we see it now with 2 additions that he made with Gorsuch and Kavanaugh. So we thank him for that.
It seems like they care more about animals and animal rights than they do children rights. And where does that lead? Baby rights. And where does that lead?
That's because cows fart.
Yes.
Oh, God.
That was a serious point in the Green New Deal. So
Yes.
We've got to stop that. But where does that lead when you're willing to murder a baby? What about if your parent or your grandparent gets old and they become, they become a pain and a burden? Does that mean we start
euthanasia? Exactly. Where do you draw the line on it?
It leads to
it's completely
a downward
immoral.
spiral of just plain, flat-out murder.
Yes, it's completely immoral. And, for the Fox News Channel, I did a documentary on the Philip Gosnell, Dr. Gosnell trial that happened in Philadelphia, and he was a butcher. He was brought to justice. I sat in the courtroom and watched about what was happening here and the cases that he took on that were the exact same that the Democrats are supporting, which was murder of children, innocent babies on the table. And it's so reprehensible to think that in this country there are people that could even advocate for that type of thing. It's something that we really have to take a stand on, to choose life, to be able to support and protect these children. They are innocent. They deserve our passion and our protection, and we must fight for their ability to live.
Becky, explain why that issue hits home so closely for us recently.
Yeah, that's what I said. We 3 weeks ago tomorrow, we had our second granddaughter. And like I said a few weeks ago, and her name is Reagan. How presidential is that? Beautiful Reagan Elise.
I lobbied for Trump, but it was a little too soon, maybe. So we'll see.
Trump is not the most feminine name, but we can make it.
Hey,
But neither is Reagan.
We're going to take a page out of the liberal playbook. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We can identify how we want.
Oh, by the way, she is a daughter. She's our granddaughter. And we're raising her as a girl.
She's beautiful.
We're not letting her have a choice. She's what God designed.
There will be outrage tomorrow that you decided for her.
God makes the choice of what the babies are going to be, and God decided she would be a girl.
You don't have to raise them as a girl. She's got a little baby doll right under her arm every second.
Yeah.
And when my boys always had guns in their hands. So we didn't, that's not something.
#me too.
That's not something you teach them. That's something they're born with. But as far as those cows you mentioned, I've got 100 cows. You just let Alexandria Cortez show up at my house and try to take my cows away.
Yes.
I love cows, Jerry. They're delicious.
Charlie, you have to share your mic. Oh, you got a mic. Yeah. Tell us what you see is going to happen with the Muller investigation, and what's going to happen after that. What's going to be the fallout? And
The Mueller investigation is a taxpayer-funded revenge campaign against this president who won a historical election that they didn't expect. That's all this is. If this was actually about Russian interference in our election, he would be looking into Hillary Clinton selling our uranium to Russia in exchange for speaking fees for her and Bill Clinton. $500,000 in speaking fees for a 30-minute speech. She's not that good of a speaker. You don't get $500,000 from a Russian bank because you're Hillary Clinton. You do that for a pay-to-play scheme to sell our uranium to Russia. If it was really about Russian interference, they'd be investigating, how about the Podesta brothers for their lobbying that they did for countries all throughout Eastern Europe? But it's not. Instead, it's how do we go after the Trump family? How do we go after the president? How do we go after anyone in the orbit because we are angry that we lost the election. We were surprised by it. There's angry Democrats, including Andrew Weissman, who's running this investigation. They have total roaming authority. Should have been ended a long time ago. But you know what? There was no collusion. It's a complete and total lie. It's gonna backfire on them tremendously and publicly. And I could tell you from my own personal opinion, I don't understand how it is possible that we have this almost 2-year investigation around something that started as a rumor mill, which really was within our own government, a coup against a sitting president of the United States that Andrew McCabe admitted to, and yet we have on-the-record corruption of previous administrations that is never investigated. One primary example, you had a sitting Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, that met with former President Bill Clinton in a private plane in Arizona 2 days before Hillary Clinton was acquitted of all charges by then FBI Director Jim Comey. What was said on that private plane? What was exchanged? Was there a quid pro quo? Why was there not a special investigation into a sitting Attorney General talking to a former President of the United States while his wife was running for the presidency? That stuff's never discussed. Instead, this is a revenge campaign. It should be ended immediately. But there's no collusion, not going to find anything, and they're going to pay a political price for it in 2020.
I believe when the investigation's over, I believe that the administration will have the freedom to declassify documents that expose what the other side did to exonerate Hillary and to unfairly go after your father. At least I hope that's what happens.
As do I. I mean, I've been saying it for a while. I mean, just put it all out there. Yeah. Put it all out there. How about don't redact anything? You know, if I'm even a subject of this thing, and perhaps one of the initial catalysts of it, just because they would do anything, and it's because they needed it to be true, Jerry. It wasn't about facts. It was they needed to explain, again, not our policies are failed, they don't work. Our candidate is terrible, it's got no personality, but it was her turn. They needed to explain Donald Trump because it wasn't lost on me that the great irony of 2016 that it took a brash billionaire from New York City to actually be able to reach working class America, to speak to them, not at them, not lecture them, but to actually have a conversation with them, and they got it, and they realized that this was a guy that was gonna fight for them. And that's why, I mean, if you look at the first 2 years of his presidency, it's been a promises made, promises kept agenda. Tax reform, couldn't get done, done. Israel, never gonna happen, despite the fact that it passed the Senate 99-0, because one guy called in sick that day, done. He's showing the world that when he says he's gonna do something, it means business. We've gotten our respect back from it. People, they're not messing with it. It's why, despite even this week in North Korea, it's why after 60 years, he's the only guy that's actually made any kind of progress in North Korea. And I've woken up for 2 years listening to pundits and all, we call them experts because they call themselves that, but in reality, their life's work has been working on North Korea, and they say this. I go, wait a minute. Your life's work was North Korea. How many times have you met with him? Oh, we haven't gotten a meeting. How many times have your teammates met with him? Oh, that hasn't happened. So wait a minute. You've spent 40 to 60 years doing this as your life's work, and you've accomplished exactly zero. I always joke. I was usually working with, watching TV in the morning with my daughter Chloe, who's 4. And unlike all of these liberals who pretend that their 4-year-old is asking about the existential threat of nuclear proliferation, Chloe's a 4-year-old. She wasn't asking about any of those things. But I say, Chloe, you know as much You've accomplished as much as that expert on TV. And she looks at me confused, not knowing what I'm talking about. But the fact that she doesn't know what she's talking about means she knows exactly what these quote-unquote experts have said. So Donald Trump comes in, and rather than doing the old sort of, Einstein's definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting a different result, he changed up the game, he pushed hard, he did things, and guess what? We haven't had a nuclear test in a year and a half. We haven't seen test missiles flying over Japan. We're actually in a room. We got prisoners back. We got the remains of our Korean War veterans back. So all these experts that know so much, what did they do in 60 years, Jerry? They didn't do anything.
Well,
So he's getting it done, and that's a threat to them because they don't want someone who can actually get something done. They want to be able to talk, then go do whatever their donors tell them to do, perpetuate the problems to be able to, show that you need them, and that's what the other side is. It's the party of dependence. They need people to be dependent on them for their existence to continue.
Well, I think the reason for your father's success in North Korea is because of his business background. I mean, the other presidents we've had in the last 40 years don't have that business background. They don't understand that sometimes you got to play hardball. You got to say no. They would give a little bit. They'd release some sanctions, and in return for lots of promises from the North Koreans, and then the promises wouldn't be kept.
And most importantly, sometimes you have to walk away.
Yeah.
And that's what people don't understand. Oh my God! What, you want to sign a bad deal that means nothing? No, that's what Obama did. Obama was great at signing bad deals that meant nothing or were terrible for the United States. But it doesn't matter because when you have 95% of the media coverage, 93% of the media coverage, and they want to do anything to make you a hero, you don't have to make good deals.
Well,
we make good deals with 93% negative coverage, but the reality is the results are speaking for themselves, Jerry. All-time low female unemployment, all-time low African American unemployment, all-time low Hispanic unemployment. Sort of goes against the narrative. Yeah. You would think with all of those things, all-time high stock market, energy exploration where we're actually a first, net exporter for the first time in history. All of these things.
GDP,
there's not a single economic metric, not one, where we are not better off today than under failed President Obama. It doesn't exist. I've done that in a room of haters. Name one. They can't do it, but they don't want to give credit where credit is due because they've spent a lot of time making sure that their little establishment cliques are locked in place.
I couldn't agree more, and also, I have to believe that if President Obama had gone to North Korea and had been there in a summit, and at the same time the Republicans had called a convicted felon to testify before Congress about Obama, everybody would be screaming, "That's treason. You're working against the United States' chance to get peace with a nuclear power." But yesterday, we didn't hear anybody yelling treason.
No, 100%. I mean, I was pretty vocal about it on social media for those of you who like my Twitter feed.
Yeah.
But no, it was, think about even an opposition party that hates the president so much that you would counter-program nuclear peace talks with a convicted criminal one of whose many convictions was lying to Congress. I mean, think about what that does when the other side is seeing that going on simultaneously. You're going to have a good negotiation with that going on in the background, but that's the reality. The left hates Donald Trump much more than they love America. Mm-hmm. They would rather see failed nuclear peace talks than give Donald Trump even a little bit of a win. And by the way, like I said earlier, he's already had more wins than anyone since the end of the Korean War.
And no wall,
even
though they once voted for it.
Well, that's the hypocrisy never ends. But again, when the media is your water boy, it makes it easy to get away with it because they don't call them out on it. That's why, I do it. I've done it, whether it's that or whether it's the, censorship through social media platforms that I'm sure all of you as religious conservatives have seen and witnessed with your own eyes. When they take down my tweets, oh yeah, it was an accident. That's an accident until I call you out on it. And then it's spamming behavior. Oh really? People getting unfollowed from liking my accounts as spammy. The hypocrisy never ends, and that's what we have to call it out.
There's a fake Facebook page out there right now called Jerry for America. We tried to get Facebook to take it down. They won't.
It completes their narrative, so they're going to leave it up as long as possible. They're going to milk it for as long as possible. It's sort of like the media, right? Even when you're wrong, they'll put the headline out. Even when the headline's there, and then 3 days later, after the damage is done, after there's 50,000 retweets, there's a little retraction in the back of page 32 of a print magazine that no one's reading anymore. No, we called it back.
Very dishonest.
What you're saying was true in the State of Union address, too. Everything, which was one of the greatest speeches by any president I've ever heard.
Incredible.
It was incredible. And what he was announcing, what he's accomplished, the left couldn't even stand up or clap for it. Their hate for Trump, for President Trump, is stronger than their love for the country.
100.
And what he's accomplished is absolutely amazing. Anybody should get applauded and should get standing ovations for what he's accomplished, even with the women. And the women sat there with their hands under their legs, and yet female employment is higher than ever.
You would think
Lower than ever.
we would all agree, that all-time low African-American employment is a great thing. Mm-hmm. But the Congressional Black Caucus can't acknowledge that. You would think that's a big part of their job and what they campaign on. But when Donald Trump does it, it's a disaster.
Yeah,
same with women, same with Hispanics, whatever it may be. Okay, if Barack Obama accomplished 1/10 of what Donald Trump has done for those minority groups, they'd crown him emperor for life.
Yeah. That was when
He had a failed presidency. All of those metrics were negative, frankly, were a disaster. And it's like he could do no wrong. He's this great, I said that the greatest joke of the midterm cycle was Obama trying to claim credit
for the economy.
Because we all know insane taxation policies, hyper-regulation, all of these things. Yes, that's going to turn out. I said it was the stupidest statement in the history of both politics and economics. Mm-hmm. And it was. But again, the media, of course it's Obama's, of course it is, all these things. Excuse me. We cut 22 regulations, this administration, for every new one in place. We actually got tax reform done. People are able to invest in themselves, in their companies, in their businesses. That's what's doing this. It's why every consumer confidence metric is being broken, not because of insane, oppressive socialist policies.
Because of the Trump economy.
And yet you can run around, and if you're Barack Obama, you can just claim whatever you want. No problem. Sure, we'll give it to him because it hurts Trump. And that's a problem. But you're right when you all said it, which is they're overplaying their hand. They're taking it so far. It's so extreme that real hardworking Americans, people that I get to see and spend time with in the middle of the country, they're like, man, this is insanity. They're not going to chime in. They don't even participate in a lot of the polls. They're just not willing to necessarily engage that way. But man, do they see it.
Well, it hit home for Liberty University. We have a lake on the backside of campus, 6 acres. We've been wanting to enlarge it to 30 acres for a while. Couldn't do it under Obama with the EPA. Mm-hmm. Your dad comes in, the lake's going under construction soon. So it's just little things like that where they...
Incredible.
And that's for you guys. That's for you guys. But...
We'd have to come back and go fishing, Jerry.
Yes, yeah. But you mentioned how the radicalization of the Democratic Party has pushed many former Democrats back towards the conservative side. And I've seen that when I was in college in the 80s, Democrats, liberals would say, I might not agree with you, but I'll die for your right to say whatever you want to say. Now they're authoritarian. They don't want to let conservative people speak. They don't want us to speak our minds. Mm-hmm. Kimberly, did you make the same transition to the right as Don, or do you guys still disagree about stuff?
Oh, no. Well, I've been a registered Republican since I was 18 years of age, and as Don knows,
she's probably
I'm
more conservative than me.
Than he is. That's a fact. So, and this is what I love. I really feel that we're at such an incredible place in American political history, thanks to the leadership of President Trump. And, we saw back what Ronald Reagan was able to accomplish, That's why your granddaughter, right, is named after Reagan. And you see this now, real enthusiasm and optimism in America because these conservative principles work. Because the president and Republicans, like we have up on this stage, know that we need to be responsible, fiscally responsible with your tax dollars, that we should make sure that the next generation is left in a better position than when we started and got in. That's what's so important, and the president gets that. He really wants to do the best and rise up for all Americans. And I love that. As a Puerto Rican woman, Hispanic, and 6.1% Native American Indian, you liked that one? This
More
is
than
something.
Elizabeth.
What percent?
Exactly.
What percent?
6.1% Native American Indian.
All right, well, my
Which is about 1,000% more than Liz Warren.
That worked out well for him, right?
My great-great-grandmother was a full-blooded Cherokee, but I never used it to get this job, I promise.
And by the way, either did I, to get a job or to get into school, because I believe in equality of opportunity, but not a result of working hard, putting that hard work in, and trying to better yourself, about personal responsibility. That's why I stand for this president, because he stands for all of us. He doesn't want any Americans left behind. He wants us all to be in a better place. And now Americans have families across this country that nobody paid attention to before, that we saw in all the rallies that Charlie and Don and I did across this country. They have more discretionary spending and money to put in their pockets, to put their kids in after-school programs, and to take care of themselves and have the health care they need. That's thanks to your father and to our great president.
Well, right now we're sending this live feed back to CPAC in Washington, so thank you, CPAC, for staying with us. But right now I want to show a clip of a video that you heard just a minute ago. It's like 30 seconds long, but you were cheering so loud, I think you missed an important part of it. So go ahead, guys.
And I'm honored to be joined here by thousands of conservatives in our nation's capital, but I also want to give a shout out to all those great conservatives watching across this country, especially all of our friends joining us live from Lynchburg, Virginia at Liberty University. I'll see you in May.
I think you missed him saying he'll be our commencement speaker May 11th. I didn't.
Such a great man.
Amazing.
Just
I didn't hear it either.
Mike Pence is just a great man. I mean, he's literally. It's funny. I've seen and got to experience a lot of D.C. And to this day, about a year ago, my son broke his leg pretty badly skiing, and I mean, literally the first call I got was from Mike Pence, and it wasn't Mr. Trump Jr., this is the White House operator. Please hold for 45 minutes for Vice President. I mean, it's him doing it himself. I mean, he's such a good and decent man and such a good and decent family. It's awesome that he's going to be your commencement speaker. And it's also terrible, terrible what they try to do to him and to Karen Pence and everything, simply because they are just great religious people and religious conservatives.
They're Christians, yeah.
Yeah. Well, your father is the same way as far as being personable. He still answers my calls. I don't know why. Every few weeks, but I want to talk about you being an outdoorsman because
His favorite subject.
I grew up.
We're going to be here for a while, folks.
I grew up. I mean, I bought a farm when Becky and I got married, and she says they're going to have to carry her out of there in a pine box someday. It's the only way she's going to leave. But we built a lake and ride Sea-Doos on it, water ski, four-wheelers. I spent all my free time. I don't golf, so I spent time on my bulldozer building trails. And but you go all over the world, don't you?
I do. For me, it's been a multiple thing. Whether it's hunting, fishing, shooting, all those things. I mean, it just sort of gets me out of the rigmarole of daily life, the craziness of both business, politics, New York City, and just experience the other side. It's been a great way to see the world and really expose yourself to cultures. But more importantly, it's been a great way to sort of have a real family experience where you're cut off from video games and the internet. And I mean, I take my sons and my kids, and we're out in the woods every weekend. They're on ATVs riding around, and it's really shown them another side of life that was so important. I think it's a big part of why I am the way I am. I was blessed to have a grandfather that did that to me from a very young age. and it's just the greatest thing, and it's a great American tradition that I try to fight very hard to preserve.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I get out there every chance I get. But fact or myth? Your dad changed the rules so that no American could do big game hunting in Africa to keep you home more.
I don't think that's accurate.
Okay, all right, that was a rumor. Sorry, guys. But Charlie, you have anything to add?
Always.
Well, I will say one thing on the college campus front. I said this earlier when I spoke here a couple months ago. I travel the country, speak on numerous college campuses. I was just at UC Berkeley a couple days ago, where a Turning Point USA activist was punched in the face for wearing a Make America Great Again hat. And I can say, without exception, Liberty University is the greatest college in the country. I can honestly say that.
Amen.
I'm a Christian, and to see so many committed Christians understanding not just theology and not just how to defend your beliefs, but appreciation for our country, and to hear all different sorts of viewpoints. It's really incredible what you've been able to do here, and it's a testament to your entire staff. And I know doing these sort of events are not easy. We try to do our own events at Turning Point USA. They're nowhere as this big, but you really have done an amazing thing here, and there's a lot of positive conversation around liberty and the work you guys are doing for the kingdom in this country and around the world. So God bless you guys. It's always an honor to be here.
And your family, your whole family has been incredible, and I think that's why it works, so well. It's so authentic. You're all in this together, and you have just produced, if you look out here, a beautiful result. So God bless you for that.
Thank you, Kimberly. I was gonna try to get Charlie fixed up with one of you ladies, but
Oh my God.
but I found.
You know what? Leave them alone till 2020, okay? November, whatever it is. November 10th, 2020, you set them up. Right now, we need them focused, okay?
I told him that 2 months ago, and
That might not
he
be
said,
public.
too late. He said, too late. I've got a girlfriend who's a Liberty student, and he sent me the picture.
It is now.
And he's done
It
very
wasn't
well.
public, but it is now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There we go. Thanks.
That's a secret. Keep it between us.
Yeah, a
if you would.
secret
Yeah.
between us, 9,000.
Secret.
No, it's not anymore. Come on, Charlie.
9,000 new best
And
friends.
she's really pretty, too. You sent us a picture.
Yes, very much so.
And I approve of her. I knew her ahead of time. She's phenomenal.
graduating
I love
from
her.
Liberty in May, so I think I'm coming back.
We'll be back. Right?
Yeah. So.
Will you want me to show a picture of her? Oh, okay.
Oh my God. Love this.
What did you say?
This is getting better by the moment.
What?
Show us the photo.
No.
Charlie says no. I'm sorry.
Charlie's turned it. Charlie, for the first time in a long time, has been speechless.
It'll give y'all something. Go on his Instagram or his Twitter and see if you can figure it out. Like, look at who he's following. Look at whose pictures he likes.
I don't know.
See if she's in the background of a picture.
I'll give you a hint. She's blind. She's
Yeah.
blind.
That narrows it down.
All right, we're over time, so I'm going to wrap it up. But before I go, last night late, I called Jeffrey Rogers, a local CPA who lived in Lynchburg for years. His father was in World War II. He was captured by the Japanese. He was in the Bataan Death March. He, I don't know how many years he was a prisoner of war, but he's 6'3", and when he came home, he weighed 90 pounds. He suffered incredible torture, but they told him he'd never have kids. He'd never live past the age of 40. But right now he's got, well, first he came to work for my father in 1974 as CFO from 1974 to about the year 2000 after he'd been in the corporate world. But now he's got, I don't know how many children, 4 or 5. He's got a dozen grandchildren. He's turning 100 next month. And he's going to be here this afternoon for you all to, I really hope you'll come back and honor him between 3:15 and 3:45. And Gary Sinise is going to speak with him. And it's going to be a special afternoon. So please don't miss. Nobody knew about that till late last night when I called him, and I couldn't believe he said yes. But he's still in good health, and he's waiting for his first granddaughter to become, first person in the family to become a doctor. She's graduating from dental school in May, and they told him he'd never have kids when he came back from, but anyhow.
Let's thank Don Jr. and Kimberly and Charlie for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
Honor to be
everyone.
here with you. Thank you,
Thank you.
Liberty.
Thank you, guys.